we get to actually celebrate the people who are stepping up, who are trying to seed some of this work. So I want to first just say to everybody that's here, thank you for believing in us. Thank you for believing in the application process. And thank you for applying. And I know we didn't do everything we needed to do for everybody, but Anne and I and others, we loved reading the applications. Mm-hmm. At one point or another, there was a box of paper, because, sorry, I still love paper. There's a box of paper sent to my house with all the applications and all of it. And I waded through a lot of these. And what we decided to do after Anne and our staff, Jonathan, Liz, Bren, others, Regina, after we read everything, we just figured out, let's figure out a way to give something to everyone. So yes, we did. And so what you see, we're announcing today $1 million for almost 40 different projects across the country. That's what we're announcing today. And that is on top of the back to school grants, which were about 35 grants for about $500,000. So between what we announced in September and what we're announcing today, that's over $1.5 million in the field to locals trying to do the work that I just spelled out earlier. Thank you so much for doing that. And to the press and others that are here, it kind of goes back to something my kids used to say to me at Clara Barton High School. They would say Clara Barton High School as one word, as opposed to many words. But they would say, and they would call me Miss Weingarten. And by the way, I actually used to wear skirt suits and heels when I taught. Not anymore. They would say, you got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And I would be honored when they would say Ms. Weingarten or Miss W, which is what they used to call me. Ms. W, one word, Miss W. They would say, you walk the walk. And I've never forgotten that. And this is us as the National Union. Look, we could spend this money in lots of different ways, but it's the National Union really giving back to our locals and states on these kind of things, because we know it takes money to seed projects. It takes will, it takes determination, but it takes a few bucks. And so that's what we're trying to do. And it's putting our work and our values into action and funding these powerful partnerships. We started last year doing it, but this year is kind of like PPI 2.0. So, what we're trying to do here, and I'm going to let the members actually talk about some of these projects. But what we have is it's in kind of 3 different big quadrants. One is, and I want to raise this issue first, colleges and our young people who are in college. Oftentimes, all of a sudden they got big bills for everything, including, like, if you're in high school in New York City, you get your transportation, and I saw some New York City folk here, I saw some of the CUNY folk, just wave, because because CUNY, because of PSC, has really had this kind of accelerated program that we've gotten funded through the government to actually help in this way. So many other places don't have this, which is why we have what we're calling the FAST funds. But what you see is a kid who's in high school, they get their transportation paid for to high school. They get a Metro card or something like that. And we have meals. We have fought for universal meals. When you go to college, none of that is paid for. And then there's books. So separate from tuition, even if you live at home, and then there's books, and then there's all sorts of other things. And then so where do you have the bucks to do this? And so many kids drop out of college because of that. So several of our unions got together a few years ago and said, as we fight for dollars, state and federal dollars, local dollars to do this, can we create these FAST funds for direct, immediate support to students on campus? And last year, to seed these FAST funds, we did $150,000. This year, we're doing $90,000 because we wanted to spread the wealth to lots of other things. But this is the kind of stuff that our members are doing for our students to keep them in school. I talked earlier about community schools and wraparound services. And what we're doing in Florida is there are several locals in Florida that really want to really push on. And in some ways, Nellie, this is part of your PPI 2.0, to try to create and despite what DeVos is doing, and because DeVos and DeSantis are like this, despite the D's. I could say lots of other things, but I won't. But so as they try to pull communities apart from each other, there's no money to create this. So what we've done through our innovation fund is put about $100,000 into several different districts, our members in those districts in Florida, to help seed community schools. And that's part of what we're announcing today. So they can do what Chicago and LA, I saw LA back there, and New York City and others are trying to do in terms of really seeding community schools the right way. And then there's take what's happening in terms of Texas. There are lots of, we have a lot of uncertified teachers in Texas. We don't have a lot of really good pathways. There's lots of schools. There's lots of ways of doing things. But the government, meaning Abbott and others, they don't care about who's teaching in classrooms. But we do. And we're trying to create these kind of pathways. So Houston, even with everything that's going on in Houston is creating a pathway, a diverse, inclusive pathway for people in communities, for paraprofessionals, for others who want to become teachers in the Houston school system because of what we're doing here. So those are some of the things that we're doing, that people are working on. Literacy work, they're working on community school work, they're working on mental health work, they're working on pathways work, they're working on pulling people together as a whole community. So when the right wing attempts to undermine, or extremists attempt to undermine, you have, like you've seen in New Haven, a community coalition coming together, and because of this pathway program together, they're sharing with each other. One of the best things that I did last year was to be on some of the PPI Zoom calls where people were sharing with each other, where they were talking about the obstacles, they were problem solving, they were doing this kind of work. And that's part of what we're doing. And we're not only doing it locally, we have 2 major grants that are going, one to Texas and one to Michigan, so that we can create not only the local work, but sustain it on the state level so that we can do this in all the different locals within the state. So that's what we're doing in Michigan, and that's what we're doing in Texas. And we're trying to figure out how to do this together. And so some of our outside advisors are really helping us with all of this. And I think that they're here with us today as well. So let me ask first, I want 3 of our recipients to speak. And in the press release that you have, you see all the different grants that we've given. I could, if I started talking about some of them, I will get in real trouble, because we got Boston here, who's done so much amazing work over all these years. I was just in New Haven with them in terms of this movement. Of course, I would be, if I didn't mention my own local union, Local 2, the UFT. So I am now doing what I should not do, because every single grant that's represented up here are people who are doing amazing, inspiring work, and I am amazed and inspired by all of them. So let me introduce Zeph first, who leads Texas AFT. And so they are building, in addition to the things that they're trying to do, they're really trying to establish this C4 organization and tackle not only the statewide efforts to privatize public education, which they are trying to do, but also all of these ancillary efforts to divide that I was saying by quoting Chris Rufo. That's what they're trying to do. They just throw spaghetti on the wall and they try to divide, and whatever sticks, that's what they try to do to our students, our families, and us. And Zeph, why don't you talk about your grant?
Randy, thank you very much. I want to say thank you not only to the AFT Executive Council, but to every single one of our 1.7 million members out there who contribute a little bit of their hard work to help make the things that we're able to do in Texas and across this country, to put it into place and to put it into an effect. And you've all seen what's going on out there in the headlines. I don't want to focus on what's wrong with our government. I want to focus on what's right. Because our members in the state of Texas, they're on the ground running some of the best career and technical education programs in the country. That's right. We have some of the strongest dual language programs in the country. We meet each and every day in places like Houston and Austin to provide wraparound services and community schools that bring families and children together. And while they divide, we unite. And that's what this grant will help us do. I will say, remind our community and our parents at a time when there's so much noise being put out there by the D's and a few other letters. So much noise out there. And I'll say the word remind because our parents and our communities really know their neighborhood schools are the place they want funded. Their neighborhood schools are the place they want to send their kids each and every day. And this work through our C4, going from Houston down to the valley, from the coastal bend out to West Texas, will be an opportunity to knock on those doors, to remind our parents, to bring them in as our true partners in why our public schools are the right investment, and not to get lost in this voucher mess that they come up with that's just putting money in pockets of privateers on the backs of our kids. That's how this is going to matter. That's what these grant dollars are going to do for our state and our kids and our members. And from the bottom of our heart, we thank you very much for your belief in us.
We could have you here for hours. So next, we want you to hear from Nellie Henyas. Did I say it right? Yes, ma'am. Nellie Henyas. I did practice. Who is the president of the Pinellas, Florida Education Support Professionals Association. Now, we represent a lot of education support professionals. We represent a lot of bus drivers. We represent a lot of support professionals in higher education. And too often when we talk about teachers, they feel like we are not talking about them, and they are absolutely essential to the work that all of us do. We would not be successful without our support personnel in schools. And so part of not just doing the grant, which is really important, but that's the intentionality of making sure that Nellie spoke to you. That's part of our intentionality of making sure that people are seen. We have to, as my kids from Clara Barton used to say, not just talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. So this is the second grant, the second year that Pinellas has gotten a grant. But what happens, and we're seeing this in terms of Texas as well, the extremists talk the talk about working class, and they do nothing to help. Like, let's start with a living wage for paraprofessionals, for bus drivers. And so part of this is that Nellie's grant is going for things like, how do we fight for childcare? How do we fight for a living wage? How do we fight for the things our members need and our communities need? So Nellie, you want to talk about this?
I'm just not going to talk about me. I'm going to talk about my members, representing all my educational professionals in Florida and Pinellas County. I was so excited when we got the grant because in Pinellas County, we are not recognized. Every time we're going out, it's just about teachers. No offense to nobody. But we are always in the back. And even for the legislators, even for the community, and nobody knew what we do. So when we got the grant, we were super excited. And we started with asking at a round table, the community members, and we started with 10 of them. They were not happy to sit us at the table, but when we start asking questions, why they are fighting in the public education, they're fighting for the same thing that we are, for better students, bonding books. So we got to connect. So with this connection, we just grow more than 159 partnerships that we have right now. And I can say this is a less than 7 or 8 months that we just started with the grants. And we do not go to the community and ask nobody else to partnership with us. They call us. They want to partner with us. So I have one specific paraprofessional to work in Pinellas County, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about her because people that don't know about her, I'm going to mention her name. Her name is Lydia. She works in a middle school. She have autism. She work with autistic kids. She bring them home $1,000 a month. Not only that, she just had to roommate with another roommate for her to survive on a daily basis. So people are hurt. That's what we do this fight and what we got the grant. So we put it in the media. Now we're fighting for living wages. We are fighting for affordable housing. The district decided to partnership and do a better affordable housing for all educators. Now they come behind us, and now they're giving only to teachers. Or you have to make more than $65,000 a year, when we only made $22,000 a year, so we don't qualify for that. So I don't have to do too much because I got the council, I got the community, and are the one fighting every single day with us, with the district, shaming them for to have employees inside the school system. They are making less and they cannot leave on the only $15 an hour. So I have to say out of the bottom of my heart, thank you, Randy, Fed, my hermana, Evelyn, for granting me the grant because it's doing a lot of movement. And I can tell you, when I get home and I tell the people that we got granted again, they're going to be crying because I told them that we might not get in it. So they were kind of upset. But that's the type of job that we do. A part that our governor, like Randy said, I'm not going to talk to him, shame on him. But you know what? When you build a community, the community believe on you, and you can do more damage with the community than the governor's doing to us. So that's what we're here for, and we're going to keep fighting for that. Thank you, Randy.
So there's no pressure on our final speaker, except that every time that she's not with us, they basically, in the Hampton Roads area and in Norfolk, Virginia, they're going to be actually deciding that those communities, who's going to be in the Senate and the House in Virginia. And that, in the next few weeks, is going to be the elections that everybody's looking at. So, no pressure. But LaQuetta McKay, who is our new president, new-ish, she's not new. You know, COVID kind of conflated all this time. So new-ish, like a year, right? So she's going to tell me, no, it's been 5 years.
Not even a year.
Not even a year. So Laquetta is our new president of the Norfolk Federation of Teachers. And they had invited me down to the Norfolk Hampton Roads area in Virginia. The first thing the current governor said is, why did you have a labor leader or a teacher leader at your Labor Day breakfast? Why did you bring her in at your Labor Day breakfast? I mean, that's the level of divisiveness that you see from Glenn Youngkin, constantly trying to divide. And what did I do? I gave a similar speech to what I just did today about real solutions for kids and communities. The divide. What Laquetta is doing is, and they don't have collective bargaining in Virginia. We're trying to get it. But they're really dealing with so many things, bringing organizations in, engaging students and parents and community members, dealing with the shortages. They have to do all of this, not at the bargaining table, but through boards and through the public with a really adversarial billionaire who's different than Trump only because he doesn't yell and scream. He smiles instead of yells and screams, but he had billions behind him. And so this grant is about, again, you can see the scope of what we do, the tent under which we're all in, from places that have had collective bargaining from the 60s, like New York City, remember what Jess did at our convention? The mayor and she were at our convention in 2022 and they announced their contract. So places that have had, contract negotiations, have good relationships these days, or with mayors, to places that we have to scrape and scrap for everything. So, Laquetta.
Good morning. Thank you, Randy. As you know, I'm the president of the Norfolk Federation of Teachers. NFT is really excited to be a part of the PPI funding round. Randy joined us over Labor Day in Southern Virginia, and it was very clear that folks were on board with the idea of real solutions. Teachers, parents, legislators, allies, and more. We're facing critical state legislative races in Virginia, as well as all kinds of rhetoric from Governor Youngkin. He had the Get to Teachers in Trouble hotline that no one called. It's our goal to make public education issues and teacher respect a top priority as we try to remake a better world for Virginia's students. So we'll use the funding and support from PPI to fund and advise our efforts to address staffing shortages first and foremost. Last August, the Virginia Department of Education got data from 111 school divisions and found about 3,300 teacher vacancies. In a response to a survey about their experiences, Virginia teachers cited issues ranging from student behavior and mental health to low pay as why they're leaving the profession. For a lot of my teachers in Virginia, it's pay. We have members that can barely pay their rent or mortgages with their salary. They had to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. None of us came into the profession to be rich. No, we did not. But we deserve to live and live comfortably. We should not have to decide whether to put food on the table or pay a bill. It's not fair. You need to pay them to retain them. It's just that simple. We are losing good veteran teachers. This hurts our students and the community of Norfolk. In Norfolk, we can't do this alone. So through our PPI support, we'll engage students, parents, community members, and school staff in a campaign to help educators get the resources they need, which will also help them identify the community school support services the students need and to help secure them. And you know better, believe we'll do this as Governor Youngkin and extremist groups wage war on public schools, because we understand that an investment in education is an investment in the future for our kids and families. Thank you.
So every single person on the stage could, I mean, you just heard them. Zeph, Nellie, Laquetta. That's who our leaders are. That's who our members are. And the work that they are going to do this year, building on the work from last year, is about the problem solving, fighting for the things that we need, opportunity, freedom, justice, but in a very tangible way. It has to be something where we're really meeting the needs of kids and communities. And so that's why we started these grants, and that's why we're extending them this year. And I can't wait to see over the course of the next few months what starts arising in these 40 places in which we're doing this work, on top of the 35 places in which we did the back to school work. This is who our members are, fighting, caring, showing up to ensure that we help every family in the places that we represent, our members and our communities, thrive. That is the promise of America, and that is what we are trying to make good on. Thank you very much, everybody.